Significant figures are very hard to figure out if you don't know what to look for and how to count significant figures. So let me show you the rules of significant figures and how to find them. The first rule is that significant figures, anything that are significant, can be non-zero, which is 1, 2, 3, and all the way to 9. Any of these numbers are significant. The second rule is that any zero between a significant figure, between two significant figures, are significant. So if you have this is 4 significant figures. And the last rule is that any zero on the right side of significant figures and the decimal point are significant. So this would be 5 significant figures. Here are some practice examples that I've written down, and also another rule concerning the third rule about the zeros after the decimal. That only applies if the zeros are trailing, which means that they're going to be at the end of the number, not if they're squished between a decimal point and a significant figure. And so, meaning the decimal point will be on the left and the significant figure will be on the right. Well, let's just get through these examples so that you get what I mean. So the first number, how many significant figures are in the first number? So we got a significant figure here and one here, and we know that the 0 in between significant figures like this in a whole number is significant, so we have 3. Okay, so we have how many significant figures in here? Well, none of these numbers are 0, which means with the first rule all of them are significant, so we have 4. How about this one? So we have 2 non-zero numbers right here and a decimal point. And remember, zeros at the end of a number after a decimal point are significant. So these all are significant because they're all at the end of a number. So how many significant figures is this? 6. Now how about this one? We just did this problem, but what about this one? We have a non-zero number here, a decimal point, but there are zeros afterwards. And after the 0, there's another significant figure, and then a 0 at the end. So how many significant figures should we count this as? Well, like what I said earlier, don't count the zeros that are squished between a decimal point and a significant figure. Only the ones that are trailing the number at the end. So it's 1, 2, 3. This one only has 3 significant figures. Alright, so how about this? So we know that zeros trailing after a decimal, they're significant. But how about zeros that are trailing of a whole number? Well, they're not significant, so we only count this as 1 significant figure. How about this one? This one is also 1 significant figure. Alright, we have another one here with more zeros. So how do we count this? We know that this 0 right here is not significant. We know this is significant, and this is significant. But what about this 0 right here? It's not significant at all because it is just a placeholder to show that there's a decimal point. So we would count this as 3 significant figures. These are the 3 that are significant. And one more problem I would like to add. If I had a number like this, how many significant figures would this be? this would be 1, 2, 3, and that's it. Only 3. So now we know how the general rules are for counting how many significant figures a number is. But what happens when we want to add, subtract, multiply, or divide? How do we know how many significant figures should be in our answer? Well, there are rules for it. And I'll tell them the rules to you. There are different rules for adding and subtracting, and there are different rules for multiplying and dividing. So let's start off with adding and subtracting. The rule for adding and subtracting and trying to have the correct significant figures is that you must take the number of decimal places of the one with the least decimal places out of all the components. So let's have an example. You might get confused. So we have 5.00. How many significant figures is that? That is 3 significant figures, because we see that the 2 zeros are on the right of a decimal point and a significant figure. Okay, so let's have another number. 23.5820. How many significant figures is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is 6 significant figures. Okay, how about this one? And we add 1, 100.1. How many significant figures is that? That is 1, 2, 3, 4 significant figures. And let's say we want to add them together. Okay, 5 plus 3, 8. So if we were adding and subtracting, this would be the answer. But we want the correct amount of significant figures in our answer. So let's look at the numbers after the decimal. Well, this one has 1, that one has 2, and that one has 4. So which one of these do we want? We want the one with the least amount of numbers after the decimal, or the least decimal places, which is this one. We want only 1 decimal place. So we would remove this, and then we would round up. That's how we add and subtract, and trying to find the correct significant figures. So the rule for multiplying and dividing, we must find, the answer must be the component with the least significant digits or significant figures. And so let's have an example. We have 101 and we multiply it by 3.0. So the answer be 303. Okay, so what are the significant figures for each of these? This one, see the 0 is in between a significant figure and another one. So this one has 3 significant figures. And this one, the 0 is after the decimal point. And that means that there's 2 significant figures. So how many significant figures should our answer be? Should be 2. So how do we make this 2 significant figures? I don't know if you've learned this in your class already, but there's a way to do this called scientific notation. And how do we do this scientific notation? For the number 303, if we want 2 significant figures, we'd write it 3.0 times 10 to the power of 2. And so that is how we'd write this answer into significant figures.